what does this mean geopolitically? Does this fundamentally alter the relationship between the United States and the rest of the world? That seems to me to be the big question. If the United States is turning Japanese, if it's about to experience what Japan experienced in the 1990s, zero interest rates, an explosion in public debt, but oh dear, Keynesianism doesn't really work, very low growth, perhaps even no growth over the decade, does that portend an acceleration of the decline of the United States? Well, there are three reasons why it's plausible to think that it does. Three reasons that I hear people put forward when they're claiming that this is the end of American superpower. One is just that this represents a loss of credibility. The Washington Consensus is dead. The American model of deregulated financial markets has been discredited, literally. This, I suppose, is an argument most commonly made in Western Europe. The second argument that one hears is that this will accelerate what's sometimes called the Great Reconvergence. That is to say, it will accelerate the closing of the gap between the United States and the big, rapidly industrializing countries, the BRICS, Brazil, Russia, India, and particularly China. Goldman Sachs, some years ago, under the direction of their excellent Mancunian economist Jim O'Neill, produced a report, the BRICS report, that forecast that China's gross domestic product would equal that of the United States in around 2040. A few years ago, I think 2 years ago, O'Neill and his colleagues revised their projections of growth and concluded that the sorpasso, to use an Italian term, the moment at which China overtakes the United States, could come as soon as 2027. Is it not reasonable, therefore, to assume that the credit crunch, that the financial crisis, will bring that date still nearer? If the United States is condemned to a decade of 1% per annum growth, and China can still manage, let us say, conservatively 6 or 7% per annum growth, could the sorpasso come as soon as 2020 or 2019, perhaps within a decade? It seems a reasonable probability if you believe that growth rates can be projected forward in that kind of way. A third possibility, which is worth exploring, a third reason why the United States might be in serious trouble, is the idea that the dollar is going to lose its status as a reserve currency. It's been crucial for the United States that it's been able to borrow in the international reserve currency because it's given it an advantage over other sovereign borrowers. But history tells us a very simple story, particularly British history. No reserve currency lasts forever. 100 years ago, the pound was the principal international reserve currency. Its painful decline and fall from close to $5 at one time to a nadir of near parity in the early 1980s, that is a story of the decline and fall of a reserve currency.